INTP weaknesses, flaws and shortcomings, where the INTPs feel challenged. While focusing on our weaknesses isn't the most enjoyable experience, it is still an important step in learning how to grow and move forward. We need to take the time to learn more about our own strengths and weaknesses in order to understand ourselves and our needs much better. When it comes to learning our shortcomings, the process can be uncomfortable but can also help us learn why we feel so challenged in certain environments. Sometimes this helps people learn the best ways to change and grow, but other times it helps us see which areas in life we need to avoid to feel more confident in our abilities. When it comes to seeing their own weaknesses, the INTP can struggle at times since self-reflection can be a confusing process for them. They need to take the time to really dive into their inner needs and feelings, even though this can sometimes be difficult for them. They do sometimes analyze their own mistakes to a degree where they can be hard on themselves, but don't necessarily see the actual weaknesses they might possess. They can judge themselves worse than they should, but self-reflection isn't as simple for the INTP as they might think. Dealing with emotions. When it comes to logic and facts, the INTP excels, but when it comes to emotions, they often struggle. They find themselves struggling to really focus on their own feelings or the feelings of those around them. When someone the INTP loves is upset, they often try to find logical answers and reasons for this. Instead of accepting those feelings, they want to solve them and determine the best way to improve the situation. INTPs can become uneasy with obvious emotional expressions since they don't naturally know how to respond to or handle them. One of the biggest weaknesses of the INTP is emotions, both their own emotions and the emotions of others. They often want to understand themselves better, but when they dive into these feelings, they might become more confused and anxious. For the INTP, this is a long process that takes time to really uncover. As long as they are willing to take the time, they can certainly learn more about themselves and their own needs. This isn't because the INTP does not care or does not feel emotions the same as others. They just don't necessarily know how to process them easily. They try to find ways to use logic since it makes more sense and can be proven. When things don't have answers they can uncover, the INTP can feel challenged with how to really handle them. When someone is emotional, this doesn't always have reasonable solutions or clear explanations, so they don't know how to trust this. They trust in reason and their logical minds, so emotions are a bit foreign to the INTP. While they feel things deeply, they often try to bury those emotions or find ways to make logical sense of them instead of allowing them to feel what they are feeling. Sticking to a schedule. INTPs can struggle when it comes to sticking to a strict schedule and don't really like having to follow the rules and expectations of others. They find themselves drawn in different directions, and their minds can become so caught up that they lose track of time. For the INTP, having to follow a schedule just isn't natural and can sometimes challenge them in the workplace. They might try to implement new ways of fixing this shortcoming, but ultimately it isn't natural or easy for the INTP. They prefer to focus on whatever inspires them and entertains their thoughts rather than having to follow a schedule and keep up with it. When they know they have to be somewhere at a specific time, the INTP might find it challenging to really. They aren't trying to be inconsiderate of others. The INTP simply doesn't find it easy or natural to keep track of time or a strict schedule. Easily distracted. INTPs can be easily distracted when something new draws their thoughts and attention. They become bored with monotonous tasks or simply dealing with something that doesn't challenge their minds positively. When they find themselves becoming bored with something, the INTP can be easily distracted by something new. They want to be free to explore different ideas and paths, which certainly causes the INTP to go off in different directions. When something sparks their attention, they find it challenging to remain focused on what is in front of them, so they can certainly be seen bouncing from one thing to the next. This is something that can pose a challenge when the INTP needs to remain focused on the task at hand. They might not be great at finishing certain projects because they find themselves bored once they have figured out the challenging parts of the information. They don't find it easy to remain on one thing for a long time and want to feel free to explore and learn about something different and inspiring. Can be suspicious of others. INTPs can actually be somewhat suspicious people, which can pose a challenge regarding friendships and romantic relationships. They find themselves doubting the intentions of those around them and might even find ways of testing them because of this. When the INTP is suspicious of someone's intentions, this can come from their lack of emotional understanding. They might feel like someone's emotional expressions aren't all that sincere since they can't easily find proof of these things. This can certainly make connecting with others a bit challenging for the INTP. It is important for them to learn to take a step back and give themselves a chance to open up a bit more with the people they care for.